Hey guys, Tables here again with part 6 of my Break Second Jobs tier list. So now we're up to the high tier with some of the best jobs in the game. There are going to be 5 jobs in this part, and yeah, there's some very strong jobs. So let's get into it. So in rank 8 we have Catmancer. Catmancer I initially put at 12th on the list, and a lot of people called me out and said that was way too low. And I have to agree with that, having looked back on it. Catmancer does so many good things for you, it has to be higher than that. So yeah, let's look at what Catmancer actually does. Stat wise, it's a very good job. Um, Bonuses to MP, strength, agility, intelligence, all really good. Dexterity drop is pretty much irrelevant as well. It also has really good weapon ranks, S rank axes and knuckles. And what this means is it can triple wield really well with 3 axes and get very high physical attack out of that. It does get a 0% critical rate if it does that, but that's actually not a big deal. But the other nice thing is because it has S rank knuckles, you can also go for a one weapon very high damage build, and that's really nice early in the game, especially when you don't have dual wield for triple wield shenanigans. On top of that, thanks to its high intelligence and good magic scaling and B rank rods, it can also do magic pretty well. So very versatile main job. And on top of that, A rank armor is really nice as well. Catmancy is where the job really gets interesting because there's so much good stuff here. Just look at the list of Catmancy abilities. You've got Blood Leech, which is available right after you get the job, so you can self-heal. And that combos with White Wind, which you can also get right after getting the job, which can group heal pretty much full HP very easily, for just one ability and a bit of money for the cat items. You have Spirit Leech, you get that in Chapter 2 to restore MP as well as HP, so Catmancy makes MP not an issue. Perforator is 1.2 times damage and it reduces enemy physical defense, which is a very nice combination. Mass Attack, not amazing early in the game, but you can start doing some really insane things with it later on. And it leads to a ridiculous damage build where you can deal like 2.4 million damage in a turn, which is kind of overpowered, just a little bit. Wing Scales adds confusion, it's how you get White Wind, not much use outside of that. Panzer Lead to boost your physical attack. Spray pierces default, which can be nice against enemies at default a lot. Sonic Boom pierces defense, which means it can deal very high damage early in the game, and is great against high defense enemies. And Rockstorm is a group attack, which is also quite nice. So that's a ton of really nice options, and you get loads of them very quickly as well. I think Sonic Boom, Spray, Blood Leech, Perforator, White Wind, Wing Scales, you can all get very early in the game in Chapter 1. Panzer Lead as well, I think maybe, I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, a ton of stuff that's just really good, and you don't even need to level the job up to get it. As you level up the job up though, you get a bunch of other nice things. Catnap is a nice group sleep attack, and because your intelligence, as this is a main job, is high, it's got a decent chance of working. Attack item amp can lead to a few attack item based strategies. It's okay early in the game, but it falls off quickly because attack items just aren't strong enough really in this game. Dig gets you the cat items, which helps to mitigate the cost of this job, because all of Catmancy items cost like 200 to 400p, and while you do get a lot of them for free, if you're using this as a main job, you're not going to be able to afford that forever. Mislead is okay, I don't really use it that much. Cat Mastery, then you start getting some more really powerful abilities. So Vigor Tonic, just like with One More For You and BP Drink, it lets you balance out BP, and carry quite nice. Death Spiral is one of the really big ones here. 4 hits at 40% damage, which first is 1.6 times damage, which is already really good for no MP cost or no BP cost. But also with Meow to the max, that becomes 60% or 2.4 times damage, which is huge. And because it's 4 separate hits, you can deal 40k with that very easily. So very, very good for physical attacking late in the game. Dragonlord Strike, another very good single target damage attack, 4 times damage, so it's as good as Amp Strike, but for no MP cost. So that can be very nice if you don't have a super offensive build, because that can easily get you 10k hits. Bone Crush, again nice for groups, and Electrolysis is another good group attack that you have. And it also gives a weakness to fire, I think it is. I can't remember, but it gives them a weakness to something which you can also exploit. So yeah, Cat Mastery gives you a ton of really nice things, and then as I said, you also have Meowth at max, which boosts their damage even further, and also Perfect Stance, which maxes out both defense stats for a long time. I think it's 10 turns. So yeah, that's really nice for surviving as well. So you have a ton of great options there. Just offensive, you've got some huge things. Defensive, you've got some huge things. It's great early in the game due to its stats, weapon ranks, and early abilities. It's great in the mid game as it starts to get those higher level abilities. It's great in the late game because of things like Death Spiral. It's just great through the whole game. Probably the 2 biggest weaknesses of Catmancer are, firstly, the fact it uses items, and especially early in the game, that's a big deal, because spending 200p every time you want to use an attack or a buff is expensive. And the other weakness is the support abilities are not that great. Sack Item Lamp, okay in the early game, learning just gets you the abilities. Whisker Sense, HP up, nice, but it comes really late. So yeah, expensive to use and not great support abilities. But aside from that, it's got fantastic potential throughout the entire game, and if it just didn't quite rely so much on expensive items to be really good, it would probably be even higher. But as it is, it's still a really good job, especially late in the game where that cost just doesn't matter as much. And that's why it's got an 8th on this list. Rank 7, we have Exorcist. So Exorcist is not that great as a main job actually, but it has some very, very good support abilities and very good job commands. So stat-wise, Exorcist is kind of awkward. It's got very good mind, which makes it very good for white magic healing, but you already have undo HP, so that's kind of a waste of a job command to use white magic with it. On top of that, it only has C rank staves, and it only has C rank rods, which makes using that intelligence bonus not amazing either. And although it has S rank swords, its strength is bad. So offensively, it's really hard to make the Exorcist any good. But it's worth leveling up because you get some excellent things out of it. So job command wise, undo HP is really nice, especially on a slow build. Something like Guardian Exorcist is really nice because you use undo HP on whatever target you want to fully heal, and it doesn't even matter if they get KO'd during the turn, you still fully heal them afterwards. So that can be really nice at sort of healing at the end of a turn. Or you can use it on fast people to revive whoever or heal people. But the really nice thing with undo HP is it doesn't matter if people get KO'd, it still heals them. No other move in the game does that. It either revives or it heals, not both. Undo action is probably the best ability Exorcist has. This is kind of like setting up Semi or Rampart, except, and it doesn't just block physical attacks, it blocks anything. So that's huge potentially. You can block physical, magic, status moves. You can even block crazy things like Final Boss has an attack that you can block with this that would normally be an instant party wipe. It's just really good. Yeah, but Undo Action just provides so much extra defense and so much survivability. The only really awkward thing with it is that it does also block walls, which is kind of weird because it means you can sort of hit it only with a healing wall and it gets stopped by your undo action, which wastes both the wall and your undo action. So just be careful with that. Steady MP recover is another really nice ability. If you don't have a solid MP battery setup, a steady MP recover, you can get this very quickly after getting Exorcist, and 30 MP per turn is really good. That's enough to pay for most spells you're probably wanting to use. It's enough to pay for most physical abilities you want to use. I've already mentioned lots of combos you can do with this, I think in the past. For example, you can double damage one turn, and you can use a debuff command the next, and then over 2 turns you recover 60 MP, and what you just did cost 59, so it works out really nicely. With things like Summoner, Summon plus Spellcraft is often in the 60 to 70 MP range, which this almost entirely covers. So basically those expensive summons are now really cheap to use and easy to use. It's a very nice ability in general, just for covering your MP costs everywhere. Purgation can be nice against certain types of enemies and bosses that buff themselves, or debuff you. Undo MP and Undo BP. These seem like really good abilities, but I actually kind of think they're not that useful. Undo MP is too expensive, and there are much more efficient ways to manage your MP. Undo BP, it costs 3 extra BP, so 4 in total. So for it to be worth it, you need to be gaining at least that amount on the target you use it on. Typical thing to do with Undo BP would be to take someone else from -4 up to 2 or 3 BP. It doesn't matter which, because they'll gain 1 and go to 3 at the end of the turn regardless. That trades 4 BP from the Exorcist to 6 BP for them, which is worth it, but that's a pretty tough scenario to make work. Undo Tra, very nice for any of the Undo HP, MP or BP based things. Eradication can be quite nice. 33% chance of instantly killing enemies is actually quite good, especially against groups. And you can boost that with Lucky Day as well, and then it becomes very effective. Lucky Day and then 1 or 2 eradications can take out a lot of ants on bosses very easily. And then the final 3 abilities, which are all very interesting. Glossolalia, that one, because I've said this is sort of a tier list that doesn't rely on other players' things, I would be assuming that doesn't work. So basically you can't use it. However, if you set up a good Glossolalia library, it can be a very nice support ability. I've never actually bothered to done that. I've never thought it's worth it. I always feel like my mages can use 1 extra slot more effectively than just getting access to more spells. But if you want a really versatile caster, Glossolalia is a really nice option for you. You can get basically whatever spells you want. Ectoplasm is one of your 2 ways of getting ghost status that doesn't rely on an enemy. So you can just Ectoplasm, kill yourself, and you're a ghost. And obviously if you want to do a Ghost Mage based setup, that's very useful. It's one of only 2 ways to set it up. Another nice thing about Ectoplasm is a lot of late game bosses tend to have story triggers where your characters start talking, and if they're ghosts they get revived with 1 HP. And this is obviously a bit of a pain, but if you use Ectoplasm on them, it stops being a pain because they go straight back to being ghosts when they get hit. So if you want to do a ghost type build late in the game, Ectoplasm is very nice for it. And then the final one, Auto Undo. Auto Undo is one of those contenders for the best ability in the game, in the late game. It does come very late because it's a level 11 ability, but there's a lot of insane setups Auto Undo enables. It does cost 3 slots, but being able to fully heal your MP and HP every single turn for free, provided you don't get killed, is a huge benefit. Like, set up a tanky unit, default with fortitude or whatever, set up some kind of extra defenses, and you just can't die. It's used in obviously the Ghost Mage nuke setup late game. It's just a really nice ability in general, very powerful. So yeah, Exorcist. Its weaknesses are, as a main job, it's really awkward stat wise. It comes kind of late in the game, about I generally consider the Exorcist fight to be about halfway through, so you only hurt for about half the game. But incredibly powerful job command, some amazing support abilities, some of which are available very quickly as well. It gets it up to 7th on this list. Okay, now on rank 6, Patissier. In some ways, this job has a few things in common with Exorcist, and it has a few things in common with Catmancer, both of which we've just seen. But it does do completely its own separate things. So, yeah, let's go through what makes this job so good, because 6 is really hard on this list. Stat-wise, it's actually really, really good. Like, you wouldn't really expect it to be that good, but yeah, look at those stats. The only one below 100% is Vitality, and that's only at 90. It's got a big intelligence boost, it's got a big MP boost, it's got good mind, it's got surprisingly good dexterity, and I really don't know why, because it doesn't have a good bow or gun rank, but also really good agility, and its hit scaling is good as well. Sadly, the magic scaling is not great, so it's hard to make that intelligence work well, and it doesn't have a good bod rank either. But yeah, overall those stats are just really solid. However, the stats aren't really where Patissier shines. Where it shines is the job command and the support abilities. So the first job command, Bon Appetit, is really useful. It does 3 main things. It can either throw any status condition you want onto the enemy or your own team. It's the second way of getting ghost status aside from ectoplasm, and this one doesn't rely on you getting to job level 8 on a job for everyone to do, so it's the generally preferred way, I would say, getting ghost status on people. The second thing Bon Appetit does is it lets you throw elemental weaknesses on enemies, and again on allies. This is really nice because you can basically get past any elemental resistances enemies might have, with one exception, one of the Sin Beasts. But yeah, just being able to make enemies reach whatever you want to is a huge bonus a lot of the time. If you've got a team of Dark Knights, throw Darkness Weakness on the enemy and add in 50% bonus damage. If you're relying on Flambe, throw Fire Weakness on them. Just loads of things you can do there. The third thing Bon Appetit does is stat reductions. I'd say these are less useful because a lot of the good ones use expensive ingredients, but it's an option you've got, and that's always nice. Just like with Catmancy, all of these are available from job level 1, so that's really nice because you don't need to do anything to get hold of them. Harvest then at job level 2 lets you get the ingredients you need, which helps the game mitigating the costs. Flambe, or possibly Flambe, I'm not a French speaker so I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to call it Flambe, and if I'm wrong, please don't cringe too hard. It's surprisingly powerful. It doesn't look like it's that good, because you look at it and you think, 0.5 times damage to a group. But what it does have is that plus 50 attack bonus. And basically what that means is you get 50 attack for every weapon that you have. If you're triple wielding, that's like effectively getting 153 attack. And that's really big. And on top of that, 0.5 times scaling for no cost is actually very solid for a group attack. The standard for physical attack seems to be about half normal damage per BP spent. For example, Sidewinder averages about 1 times and costs an extra BP. Crescent Moon costs an extra BP and is 1 times damage. So Flambe at no cost and half times is fairly standard. But because it has that plus 50 attack bonus, it gets huge damage very easily. Just to say triple wield, and Flambe is very quickly dealing close to normal attack damage but to all enemies. If you throw a fire weakness onto the enemies with Bon Appetit, it's now dealing 1.5 times normal damage, give or take. And of course, if you're doing triple wield based things, you can also take advantage of a spear for a further 25% damage bonus, and possibly 1 or 2 katanas for that critical bonus. And very quickly you've turned what looks like a mediocre ability into a huge damage dealer against groups. So Flambe can be really nice, and because it's only job level 3, you can use it as a job command very quickly on other physical jobs. Decoration can be nice for getting someone to take the aggro. And I have noticed that that can do things like force Maverick to target the person who's decorated instead of the person with lowest HP. So that can be quite nice as well. The penultimate job command it gets is Digestion. Not that useful. There's very few cases you're really going to need that. And then Storm, which is very nice for debuffing a single enemy. You can just reduce all their stats basically by, I think it's 25% in a single action. Against groups it's less good, but still throws a bunch of debuffs out, which is quite nice. The rest of this job though is support abilities, and there's some really nice ones in here as well. Status Ailment Amp, a very standard one for status based builds. It helps the Patissier to throw out status moves. If you have status based other things like attacks or specials, it'd be nice for getting those off more reliably. Glacé, doubling healing effects, on its own isn't too amazing, but combine it with items for all and you start getting some very powerful effects. Being able to heal everyone for 3000 HP with a single move that doesn't even take up one of your job command slots. Very useful. And it doesn't just affect healing items either. Ethers, 80 HP to everyone. Turbo Ethers, 300 MP to everyone. They're really nice combinations that you can use. It's also useful outside of battle for healing because something around 6 to 12 normal potions really heals everyone with Glacé plus items for all. It's very nice. Items for all as well, since we're talking about it. There's a few other really nice things for you. The most notable one is combining it with Bon Appetit, which lets you set up the Patissier BP battery build. I mentioned this in Red Mage, so it's equally reliant on that, but you give everyone the BP recovery skill, and then you use Bon Appetit to throw Elemental Weakness Cakes at everyone. Everyone gains 1 BP. Very nice combination you can use. You can also use it with Bon Appetit, of course, to be aggressive against enemies, throwing status moves onto all enemies, throwing stat reductions onto all enemies, or throwing elemental weakness onto all enemies. All of them are really useful things. Prolong Enfeeble doubles the duration of stat reduction moves. Generally just a nice thing to have if you're using a stat reduction based build, which maybe isn't what Patissiers usually do, but for things like pirates or possibly summoners using Charybdis, can be very nice. And the final one in there is Critical Hitter. Not the most amazing ability most of the time, but if you want to use, say, Overlord and have mages getting involved with that, or if you just want to make your healing sometimes slightly better, or your item-based attacking better, you can make use of it. So overall though, I'd say the real strength of Patissier are the versatility you get from Bon Appetit, the power of Flambe, especially very soon after you get it. It does eventually get outclassed by things like Dark Knight, but for late Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Flambe is very, very effective. And then the BP battery setups late in the game, as well as debuffing with things like Ice Storm late in the game. The weaknesses of Patissier, I'd say, as a main job, it's not fantastic, and it is reliant on items which can cost you money. Although Harvest does mitigate that, but you still need to buy a lot of items for it, probably. Overall, though, very nice job, and I think it deserves its place here in 6th on the list. Well, here we are, top 5 on the list, and we're starting it off with Summoner. Summoner got a lot of buffs since Bravely Default, some direct and some indirect, and so it's managed to go from one of the worst jobs in Default to one of the best in 2nd. Its stats are good, but not incredible. It has huge MP and above average intelligence, and of course S rank wads to make use of it, so its magic damage is good and it can use spells for a while. Its specialty, Convert MP, was buffed by 5 times as much between Default and 2nd, so it's now 5% MP recovered for damage you take, which doesn't sound great, but that actually adds up to quite a lot very quickly. And it's a very nice way of managing MP early in the game when there's not much MP management. Just to give you an idea of how much that is, if you take a hit for 500 damage, you get 20 MP. And 500 damage is sort of fairly typical even early in the game. So yeah, that gives you quite a lot of MP quite quickly. The job command provides a lot of really nice options as you go through the game, but of course the main thing is the damage output. Summons cost 40 MP, and they have a 2.5 times scaling, hitting an entire group. On top of that, they have 110 base damage, which is way higher than anything you have early in the game. What this means is that they do massive damage when spellcrafted. Because that double damage with spellcraft bonus, yeah, your summons are hitting ridiculously hard. Things like a summon dart that is dealing 7.5 times magic scaling damage. It gets even better when you throw in good measure. Something like a summon blast, for example, deals something like 18 times normal magic scaling damage, which is kind of ridiculous, especially as it costs under 100 MP to do that. It's really insane damage. And of course you get summon levels 1 and 2 very quickly, which means you get access to 3 elements of summons almost immediately. You get the 4th in chapter 2, and then you get more as you go through the game. Yeah, when you get to level 3, and then you get to the end of chapter 3, you get access to Charybdis as well. And that is a very, very useful support summon. Dropping enemies' attack stats is one of the best things you can do to boost your own survival, and this does it to an entire group, and just for a single action, and it drops both attack stats. So that is a hugely useful support ability. You would be amazed if you've never tried it just how much it boosts your survival, dropping enemy attack stats to minimum. At level 6, you've got Convert MP, and I just said that's nice early in the game. You're probably not going to use it throughout the game, but when you're using Summon as a main job, it is quite nice to have. Your Summon in a Pinch and Summon Substitutes at levels 7 and 2 respectively, I would say they're more filler abilities. They can be nice ways of getting a little extra damage out, but they're hard to really make heavy use of and probably not worth making heavy use of. Summoning Amp at level 8, a little bit expensive for what it does, I would say, but can be quite nice if you want to boost your summon damage. Summoning level 4 gives you access to Susanoo and, more importantly, Amaterasu. Amaterasu is ridiculously powerful healing. It heals everyone for 100 times your mind stat, and in a magic job that's basically a guaranteed full heal or very close to full heal for everyone. Even in non-magic jobs it's huge amounts of healing. No abilities needed, no sort of spellcraft or good measure or group cast bonuses. It's just basically a full heal for one action, which is very nice to have on a job that's otherwise mostly offensive. If you throw in spellcraft onto it, it gets really good as well. Amaterasu Mist basically fully heals everyone for 3 turns. Just very nice to have as an option. The level 10 ability, Summoning Surge, is a little bit misunderstood in what it does. It multiplies your summon damage by 10% every summon that's been used, and they increase multiplicatively, which basically means your second summon deals 10% extra, your third summon deals 21% extra, your third deals 33% extra, and so on, up to a maximum of 10 times using summons, which is 2.5 times bonus, I think. And it doesn't just count summons you use, it counts summons anyone uses. So if you have 2 summoners on your team, your Summoning Surge can very quickly hit the maximum, and you're getting 2.5 times bonus for essentially both of them if you use Summoning Surge on both. So, often misunderstood ability, but actually can be quite nice on a mage setup. Unfortunately, at 2 slots, it is hard to fit in, so yeah, you have to decide if you would think it's worth it. The final thing Summoner gets is that Invocation for Summoning level 5. And this was basically an entire job command in default that's now a single job level in Bravely Second. So that's a huge amount of options you get just from one level. This provides you 8 massive stat buffs you can apply to yourself. Sadly, it is self-only, they can't be spellcrafted or anything, but you can raise basically any stat you want, sometimes even 2 stats at once, to the maximum for 10 turns. So if that low agility is annoying you, maximise your speed for 10 turns. If you want to deal more damage, max your magic attack for 10 turns. Works even better with Limit Breaker, because then your boost you're getting is twice as big. And because you can use these even without having to use sort of offensive magic, it actually makes Summoner a nice job command on pretty much any kind of job, even physical ones. And they can also make use of that Amaterasu for healing, and Charybdis for debuffing enemies. So if you have a physical job, doesn't really need anything to make it work in the job command, something like say Dark Knight, you can put Summoner on it and get yourself stat boosts, healing to the team, and debuffing enemies as well, all those extra options. Summoner is quite nice as a main job, even late in the game, thanks to its good intelligence and MP. Although there are probably better options for a main job. Summons, as I said, very, very powerful when spellcrafted, very powerful with good measure. And you can combine both of these very easily. The Chapter 1 boss, you can take down with a roughly level 20 bishop that has summons and good measure and spellcraft set, all of which is quite reasonable to have in, by that time. You can pretty much one-hit kill the boss on hard with its summons. That's how good these are early in the game. That's often considered like a pretty tough early boss, and you can just destroy one of its heads in one turn. So yeah, very nice job command, very powerful early on, very powerful later in the game as well. Gives you lots of elemental options. Incredible late game due to the invocation options. So although the support abilities might be not as good in general, Summoner job command is one of the best magic job commands, in fact probably the best magic job command in the game, and so you'll probably rely on it considerably throughout the entire game. And just for that reason alone, it's well worth having, and it earns its spot in the top 5. Okay, number 4, Hawkeye. This one was an interesting one for me to try and place. I sort of started it low, it went up to about 2nd, and it finally dropped down to here in 4th. I think I valued what it did differently at different times. Yeah, so let's have a look at what it does and why it's worth its place in the top 5. Firstly, look at its stats. They aren't actually that amazing, but there's no weaknesses there at all. It's got great dexterity and gun rank to use it. It's got the HP bonus, which is always a nice one, and it's got a slight boost to strength and vitality as well. Sadly, no boost to agility, which is always a shame, but you can't have everything. It's also got S rank guns and A rank axes, and just like with Catmancer, that means you can either go for a triple wield based build or a gun based build. Usually I'd say gun is more common on Hawkeye because of that dexterity stat, but you can make either work. And with its Eagle Eye specialty, you can also do a physical attack based build with axes, which is not something you can usually do. Looking at its job command now, this is where Hawkeye really shines. If Summoner was the best magic job command in the game, I would say Hawkeye is the best physical job command, because job levels 1 to 5 provides you basically everything a physical attacker needs. It's not always the best, and it can be a little MP expensive, but you just have so many good options there. So level 1, Sidewinder. This is a group attack. You can choose to not target certain enemies. That's sometimes worth doing, but usually you want to attack everything. It's not quite as strong as other group attacks if you're attacking 3 or more enemies. The way the scaling works is for one enemy it's 2 times damage, For 2 it's 1.2, for 3 it's 0.9, for 4 it's 0.8, and it's 0.1 less for each extra enemy beyond that. So if there's 3 or more enemies, it's dealing just under normal damage to every enemy, which is not amazing, but you know, it's a group attack and it's versatile. Level 2, Maverick, lets you take out weakened enemies very easily. It's kind of like Monk's Hidden Dragon in that it's a damage boost at the end of the turn, but because it's forced to target the lowest HP enemy, it's very nice for sort of cleaning up enemies you may or may not have just killed. If you don't mind them surviving to the end of the turn, you can just Maverick them and make sure you clear out weakened enemies. It can be really nice. Level 3 and level 5, Warhead and Harpoon are really where I'd say Hawkeye shines. Warhead lets you imbue your weapon with any element you choose. It also adds magic-based damage to your attacks, or you can go for a sort of a job like, say, Catmancer, and use this. Catmancer can have sort of good physical and magic stats. Jobs like Kaiser can do this as well. In fact, Kaiser's probably even better for it. You can do both high physical and high magic damage thanks to the Warhead bonuses. But normally what Warhead's used for is just the elemental bonus, because that's 50% bonus damage a lot of the time, and that's really good. Harpoon also is used for its bonus effect, which is to pierce physical defense. I would say Harpoon is slightly overrated by some people, because a lot of enemies have quite low physical defense, so a lot of the time it's not worth the action to use. However, in a lot of builds, Harpoon can add a ton of damage. You can use Harpoon and not even bother with, say, dual wield, and go for a triple wield based build, and that works really well. It gives you 2 extra slots you can use for any other support abilities you want, which frees up a lot of space for extra damage boosts, or defensive boosts if you prefer that. Or you can use dual wield plus triple wield plus Harpoon, and you just do massive damage to enemies. You don't even need to care about the defensive stats. If they're low, you don't bother using Harpoon, you just do her damage anyway. If they do have high defense, you Harpoon first and then start taking them out. Condor is a little bit more niche, but lets you rip through those annoying enemies at default a lot. Beyond job level 5, Hawkeye kind of falls off a bit and doesn't really get anything else that's worth leveling it up for. But the nice thing is, you don't need to, you can just get it to job level 5 and then use it as a job command on other jobs for quite a while. At level 6 you get Barrage. Barrage is maybe worth leveling up to get. If you have a build such as a multitask based build, Barrage can be good. On average, it's quite tough to fit in, I think, because although it sounds like it's going to be really good, like, you can get up to like a 30% damage boost after 3 attacks, but sort of you have to do 3 weaker attacks up to there, and if you're not doing at least 4 attacks in a turn, it's really bad. In fact, even if you're only doing 4, you're averaging a 15% damage boost, which is still not fantastic, so you really want to get at least about 5, and getting 5 attacks in a turn requires a skill that gives you extra attacks, and all of those are going to be chance based. So yeah, overall I think Barrage is usually not worth it, but it can be in certain builds. Eagle Eye is just not worth 2 slots. Sparrow, the thing with Sparrow is it's a really nice idea, and being able to do magic damage is really nice because it lets you get around high physical defense enemies, except Hawkeye already does that with Harpoon, so it's kind of not usually worth it. If you have a gun equipped, it can still do quite good damage because it's based on your right hand weapon, but I don't usually think it's worth it. Rifle Law, there's basically no jobs that use that well. The best would be things like Thief and Ranger, except they already have A or S ranks in a dexterity based weapon. And then Shrike. Shrike's actually really good, but I don't think it's worth leveling to job level 10 to get. It's 1.5 times damage with a turn delay. The turn delay doesn't really matter, but yeah, 1.5 times damage is really nice. And finally, Crossfire. Again, is quite good, but I don't think it's worth the time spent leveling up to get it. And it comes really late in the game, so it's job level 11. Crossfire has a 25% chance of attacking when an ally attacks. It's a sort of command type attack, so you don't get things like multitask where it hits several times. I think you need quite a few people on your team attacking, at least 2 others, to make Crossfire worth it. And I'll say a lot of the time you sort of have at least one person on support full time and one person supporting a bit. So I don't usually think Crossfire is quite worth it, but I've definitely seen some builds where Crossfire works really nicely. Also, just a note, Crossfire cannot trigger off of another person's Crossfire. About a year ago, maybe just under a year, me and a bunch of other people on Game of the Accused tested that extensively and found that was our conclusion. But yeah, with all that said, Hawkeye provides a lot of nice options. Very quickly as well, it provides a ton of really useful ones. Between things like a warhead plus a harpoon, you can be basically doubling your damage output, which is just insane. You've got a few very powerful job command based attacks there with Maverick, Sidewinder, and later Strike. It's got good stats as a main job. It's mainly its power as a job command is what makes it so good. There are very few physical jobs that don't benefit from having Hawkeye set. Pretty much, yeah, I can't think of a single one that wouldn't want Hawkeye as its job command. A lot have other options they might prefer, but Hawkeye you get fairly early in the game, and it just gives you so much versatility, and it's almost always good, and even mages can make use of it. So even though its support abilities aren't so great, it's just a fantastic job command, and that is the main reason it's managed to get itself up to 4th on this list, but not quite into top tier. So our final 3 jobs. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this part. That was the high tier, so 5 very, very good jobs here, all providing some really useful things, opening up some really cool strategies. And now we just have 3 jobs left in the top tier. Hopefully you can remember which 3 they are, because I'm not going to tell you because I'm a bit mean like that. But until next time, thanks for watching.